Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Jerry from Team Unco Studios. The video that we're going to make today is going to be a little short intro, kind of basic training on some MPC Beats stuff. I've gotten some DMs from a couple of people from one of the MPC Beats groups that we follow that had mentioned there wasn't really one that's super basic. And when I mean basic, I mean like kindergarten level basic. We will be using the MPK Mini to kind of just show how to get the basic functions working, your pads, your keys. We're not going to go really into key groups and plugins and all that. It's just basically functions on what each little menu does and how to get things working and stuff. We're not going to be making any beats. We're not going to be making any kind of music. There's plenty of videos on YouTube that you guys can go and look at if you guys are interested in doing that. Today's just going to be a very basic video on just functions and different things and what they correspond to, expansions and whatnot and stuff like that. So I hope you guys get any kind of use out of this video that you can. Again, this is really targeted at a few specific people that DM'd me, and it was just easier to make a video and put it on YouTube as opposed to sending multiple videos to multiple people. And perhaps somebody else might be able to get something out of it as well. So without further ado, we're going to kind of jump right into this, guys. If you have any questions or whatever, you are more than free to leave a comment down below and let me know. I'm by no means an MPC master. We use it as a tool here in our studio. We do not mix and master on this actual DAW itself. So if I might have missed something, I might have missed it because it's not something that I use on a daily basis. But again, like I said, hopefully you guys can find this information useful. And yeah, let's pop into it.
Okay, you guys, so I've opened up my MPC Beats program here, and this is pretty much what comes up each time. It's just this little menu that shows what we want to install into our program, to begin with. Do we want to do a recent project, which are the ones at the bottom down here? Do I want a demo to put in and mess around with? Or are we going to have an empty project or something basic? For right now, guys, I'm not even going to explain the other stuff. I'm just going to go with the empty project. Boom. Okay, so here's where we're at. Now, for right now, you guys, what we're going to do is we're just going to get a sound into our MIDI controller. Today, the MIDI controller that I'm using is the MPK Mini. I believe this is the Mach 3 version, okay? So in order to use this guy properly, the first couple of things we got to do is we have to sync these things together. So we want to make sure to sync our MPK Mini to our MPC Beats program, okay? So the way that we're going to do that is a couple of different ways. Way number one is we are going to go up to our preferences. So we're going to go to MPC Beats. And from there, I'm sorry, this is an actual Mac too, guys. So I'm using Mac. So for PC, it's a little bit different. So leave a comment down below if you want to know how to do that. And I can tell you and explain to you really quickly. That would be my dog barking in the background because somebody's probably here. But no big deal. It's all good. So we're going to go to MPC Beats, okay? MPC Beats. And then you are going to go down to Preferences. And this little menu is going to show up. Now, this menu is important for a couple of different reasons. Number one, because it's going to tell us most importantly where our ins and outs are. So we're using the Scarletta 18i20 as our interface here for the, we're in the mixing room right now. So that's what we use as our interface. So we want to make sure that that interface is set to our input and outputs, okay? And the way you get there is just by this little arrow here, Scarletta, boom, make sure that that's there. Next, we're going to go down that little side menu here to our MIDI sync. Okay, now what this is going to do is this is going to allow us to get our MPK Mini, which if you follow the tutorial about how to set it up and everything, there should be a walkthrough on YouTube about how to get that into your preferences and all of that good stuff where you can find the MPK Mini and all that. Sometimes it's just a plug and play where it'll just, I think for a Mac, for me, plugged it in and it automatically recognized it. But what we do want to make sure is that our control and our track are both enabled, okay, enabled. And then we want to make sure that our Scarletta is also enabled, the tracks. Then on the next one, little kind of menu thing down here, you'll see it says record and export. We want to make sure that our MPK Mini is on sync and it is also on track. And then we also want to make sure, just for general, that our Scarletta has track enabled, okay? So that's pretty much the basic stuff here for this. I'm gonna kind of give you guys a second to kind of look at that just in case it's okay. It was just my coaster. To kind of look at that and see how that all looks and everything like that so you guys can get your controller set up. Okay, so now that we've got that done, we're gonna keep trucking along here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to navigate down to the bottom right corner. And if you notice, there's all this menu of stuff down here. We can go through all of that if you want in another video. Leave a comment down below and I can explain something if you're like, Jeremiah, could you go more into expansion packs or whatever? I can do that. But for right now, we're just getting sound into our MPK Mini, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to navigate down to the bottom right here, and we're going to go to this little tiny thing here that says MIDI learn, okay? What this is going to bring up is this is going to bring up a thing that is going to allow us to enable every single one of our pads and our cue links to respond to what our console is. If you notice where I'm circling with my arrow over here, this is our little console. So these little knobs will actually move and correspond to the little knobs on your MPK Mini and your pads. You will be able to get them to do what you want and where you want them to go. And when you turn a knob, things will turn up and down, which I will show you. So what we're going to do is we want to make sure that up where our little drop down menu is here, we have MPK Mini in there. If you have other devices in there, you could, put them in here and enable those pads. But for right now, we got the MPK Mini. So that goes there. And then we're going to go over to this little guy that says enable. And once you're enabled, now if you notice, I'm going to put your attention to the program level here. You'll notice when I move my little knob there, the fader now moves with my MPK Mini, okay? So if you take the enable off, it probably is not going to move. So that's how we make sure that everything is now synced together. Now we're synced up, we're ready to go, and sometimes you don't have to enable your pads and cue links and it'll still work. But for me, I like to have everything already ready to go from the gate, right? So those are the first steps right there, guys, we're going to do. We want to make sure that stuff is ready before we start loading stuff in. But again, this is just a walkthrough to get stuff into our MPK Mini. So here we go. We're going to only go through two different things right now, you guys. We're just going to go through our drums and we're also going to go through our plugins because they're the two easiest ones to get sound in. If you guys want to know more about key groups and how we get key groups in and stuff, leave a comment down below. I can make a whole video on key groups and how key groups work and getting samples in and out, sample layers, all that stuff. For now, sound into the MPK Mini. So, drums. Now that we've done with our global stuff and everything here for our MIDI learn, we're going to go ahead and close that and stay on this same menu. So if we kind of go down the chain here, you see there's little lines that kind of separate, okay, what is what. We're going to go and skip all of this stuff and we're going to go to these next three. These are basically going to be our expansion packs. The expansion packs came with MPK Mini. Okay, so we're just going to use one of those as a default. I like to use the middle one, which is a flat, way of showing your library. This is what we have here for the mixing room. So we're just going to go to, I don't know, the MPC Beats producer kit, which comes with every MPK Mini, and it comes with MPC Beats 1, I believe, which is the version that we're using right now. So where we're going to go from here is we're going to click on where it says programs. Okay. Now all this stuff is going to pop up. These are all the different kinds of sounds that we have in different genres and stuff. I don't know. For now, we'll just go 80s. Okay. So 80s, we've got these little drum kits now that have been dropped down from our kit menu, and you can either sample each sound before dragging it in by just clicking it. Okay. Or you can highlight the sound, and if you notice where I'm at here, you can hold down this little play button, and when you let it go, it'll stop. So there's two different ways of rehearsing whatever the drum kit is, right? And that sound is just a rehearsal of the whole drum set together. Like that's just somebody making a sample of what that kit comes with, okay? So for now, we're just going to use that one, okay? The F9 grid, all right? So we're going to throw that in. Now, if you've noticed, it has now been loaded into my program here. which you can see it says programmed. Okay, so just to kind of go through this little inspector here, you've got tracks, you have drums, key groups, and plugins, and then you've got your programs here. Okay, now this program it corresponds to my drums here. Okay, so now let's say I want a different drum kit here. Let's say no, I want the F9 grid kick, right? Not the hits kick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double click that, and now that, sorry, let me stop that. So now that has been loaded, but it did not get dropped into my pads. If you notice, it is not there by default. My gosh. But it is not there by default. What happened is you have to program it to go there. How do you do that? If you go to programs here and you see there's a little arrow, drop that down, and now you'll see that your 80s grid kick has been put into this little menu here. You can load 7, 8 different drum sets in there if you want and go back and forth between each one, okay? So let's say I want that 80s kit, boom, now it's in there. Okay, so now I've got it. If I start hitting my pads, right, you can hear the drum sounds. Okay, so that's how we get drums in there, guys, all right? Now, let's just keep going and moving along here. Let's say after I get my drums in, I want to put some keyboard to it, right? I'm going to go ahead and open up another track. So I've got track 2, all right? I'm going to hit my little, where it says track here, there's a little arrow. I'm going to bring that down and go to track 2. And now you notice my grid and kick and everything is still there. Well, all you've got to do is take it off drums and go to your plugins here. Boom, plugins, okay? Now, whatever this default, which usually it defaults to a tube synth, will now be on my keys. So again, if you notice, okay, so nice little tube synth there. All right, so that's basically how you can get back and forth between at least being able to get started with a drum beat and then being able to get like a nice, synth over it or something, right? So you can also get different plugin sounds by, if you go to where it says tube synth and you notice there's a little arrow there. If you bring that arrow down, it gets you to this menu. You can go to electric, you can go to baseline, or you can bring in a VST. I'm not even going to mess with VSTs because they're something completely different, but let's say you want to go with electric, right? So let's say I want something electric, go to electric, and now you've got a different sound, right? You've got, ooh, hear that? Okay, so now you've got like this kind of ping-ponging sound there. Now, with that electric, you've also got all of these different sounds. So let's say I want a basic electric. It'll say, do you want an E piano? Do you want do you want a whatever, a loud times? Do you want a whatever? There's different ones. Let's say I want a hybrid EP. Okay, so now there's my hybrid EP, right? Okay, so that's basically how plugins works. Mess around with it, start playing with it. That's the best way and my best advice. So lastly is, how do we record now and get stuff onto our screen here and onto our grid, okay? So first we're gonna close this menu down right here of our expansion pack to give us a little bit more room to see. And what we're going to do is go back to track 1, okay? So if we go back to track 1, boom, you've noticed it's already put our drum group back into there because that's what we had set for track 1. So now, in order to get drums in here, it's always going to default you to a 2-bar loop when you begin just an empty song, okay? So for right now, we're just going to stay at 2 bars. If you want to change it, all you got to do is click right next to the 2, push backspace, and you can say, I want 8 bars, and it'll put 8 bars in there empty, right? But for right now, because it's just a tutorial, we're going to just say we want 2 bars, okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and hit space bar, which is play, okay? And you notice there's a kick going. There's a click. It's set to 120 by default, so that's good, all right? Now, with drums, you want to make sure that your time correct is on. If you notice right here where my arrow is, there's a thing that says time correct. What this guy is going to do is it's going to snap each one of your kicks to whatever the closest 16th bar is to it. So if you're not the best with timing, time correct is great because it'll snap it and put it right on to what that bar is, whether you want it in the middle or wherever you want it, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and record a little kick here so I can show you what I'm talking about. Now, what I would normally do was hit shift and record. And if you notice at the top up here, it kind of goes into this standby mode. Once it's in standby and you hit spacebar, it's going to go into 4 clicks before it actually starts recording. I think it's a great thing to use. I would highly recommend using it. So let's go spacebar. Okay, so now a couple of things happen there, right? I messed this note up here and it snapped to this. So let's say I just want this here. All I'm going to do is just, if you notice when I hover over it, a couple of things happen. You see there's like this little arrow that stretches it down. There's this little tiny guy here. There's this little stretchy guy like this. We're looking for this little tiny arrow guy and we're just going to move this kick over. Oh, whoops, actually. First things we're going to do is we're going to actually click off, because if you've noticed, everything started moving, okay? We're going to actually bring this guy right to the bar right there. We're going to bring it right to, let's say we want it there, and let's say we want this one there. I don't know. Play. Now everything is nice and tight, right? Everything is snapping right to that line. That's what time correct does for you. It'll get it closest to the closest line. I know that wasn't the best example because I'm just trying to show, but you can also just physically move it if you happen to miss it. You know what I'm saying? The way you get rid of it is by just highlighting everything, push down your mouse, drag over, drag down, and where that little arrow was, double click, and everything will come off your grid. Also, Command Z will also go back. It's kind of like an undo, right? That's Command Z is undo. Okay, so that's how basically we get this kick in there. Okay, so again, we'll go okay, so if you noticed, everything snapped to the grid here. Looks nice, okay? And you could kind of see where the other one kind of comes into, where you could see it snapped here to its grid, right? So that looks pretty sweet, right? That's basically like the starting form of how you would record, okay? So it's Shift R to put it into a standby mode, and then a space bar in order to start it. You're gonna get a 4 click, and then you're gonna go. Now, one thing with that is if you don't have this metronome on up here, you're not gonna hear the click as you're recording. So make sure that that metronome is on, because it's always nice to have good timing with what you're doing, okay? But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. That's basically the basics on how you get something basically inside to this. Just remember, whenever you double click something for your drum program, it's going to come in here into your programs, okay? And the way you get there is just, again, by going down. With your plugins, this is already stuff that's pretty much preset in here. You don't have to really load anything in. You're just going to basically say, I want it plugged in to what my keyboard, you know? So you could just either say, I want to use a VST, or I want to use one of these, you know, set sounds or whatever, or I want to use an electric wet sound that's like a loud, timey wet. And it'll give you whatever you want. And then, mind you, that also too can be adjusted through all of these plugin like little parameters. You know, you can delay, chorus, and all that can all be changed right here. If you just hit this, it'll gives you this little thing where you can manipulate the sound or whatever, you know. So, but anyway, guys, I think I've talked long enough. I don't want to make the video super long. That's pretty much the basics of how to just get a sound inside MPC Beats. I know there was a lot I did not go over. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there for you guys to watch, but this is real basic on just how to do this. If there's any other questions you guys have, please, by all means, leave a comment down below. I love making small videos and stuff like this for you guys. And just, you know, I'm not an MPC Beats master. I don't know everything about this program. You know, I know a lot about audio. We typically do mainly like regular music audio stuff here, like live bands, stuff like that. MPC Beats, though, we have found is a really great tool, and it has its advantages for being able to get a certain kick that I might want, or a certain key sound or something. So this is why we like to use it here in the studio. So we hope this was helpful, guys, and you know, let's try and get into some.
All right, you guys. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, really basic stuff. If anybody had any questions or anything more to elaborate on, please leave a comment down below. If I might have misspoke about something, leave a comment. If there was something that you guys would like me to elaborate more on, you can leave a comment. These were just for those specific people in the group that had asked me about these real basic stuff. So that was basically it, you guys. But please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're going to have a lot more content coming out here within the next couple of months. Some more looping videos, possibly some more instructional videos like this. But please don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Peace and love from everybody here at Team Co Studios. And don't forget, knowledge is power. Later.